This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I am in Utah having a wonderful day. It is absolutely gorgeous here. I hope you are enjoying the weather. And for all my friends back east, I hope that you are safe and all of your animals are safe. And we send you all of the blessings in the world during this time. I would like you to know that you can find me on UFO Classified on Facebook, or you can go to my website, ufoclassified.com, where I will have my upcoming guests on there, as well as some links to important publications and organizations that I feel helps spread good information. You've heard me talk about on many different shows the fact that in the world of ufology, we are definitely being led astray, and it is important that we have a good foundation. We understand the history behind this, and NICAP is an important organization. And then we also donate our time or money to organizations that are transparent with their information and are progressive with the way they investigate and research and engage the mainstream scientific community. So please go to UFOs Documenting the Evidence. That's Paul Dean's website. He is a historian. He was on last week with Dr. Haynes. He has some groundbreaking new information on there. So go to UFOs Documenting the Evidence and go to NICAP, go to NARCAP, get involved and know the truth and don't be led astray, because that's really important for all of us. My guest tonight is somebody that I fell in love with his artwork, and I think I saw his artwork, oh my gosh, it's been a few months, and I've watched him, and being an artist myself, I know good art when I see it. It's not necessarily mine, but I have a great appreciation for it. My father's a professional artist, and there is something about Doug Auld's the way he brings people to life. He is doing right now a group of paintings called The Whistleblower, and I'm sure all of you have seen The Whistleblowers. It's, you've got Colin Andrews, you have our friend Chris Bledsoe, you have Jeremy Corbell, all of these people who are pushing the boundaries, and he's doing all of this art. It's incredible. And then before that, he did a 3-year art project called State of Grace, which I will tell you is some of the most moving art I think I've ever seen. State of Grace consisted of 10 large-scale portraits of adolescent burn survivors. And the New York Times featured the project in a front-page story in June 2006. It makes me cry when I look at these people that he has portrayed so brilliantly and given them a voice and given them beauty and hope. It's really profound. Doug Auld is a musician. He's an artist. He is a Renaissance man, a super cool guy. And he's also had really interesting UFO encounters. And I have to say, we have to start off because, Doug, you saw The Doors, and that had an impact on your life. And I can tell you, I did not see them, but they had a big impact on my life.
Well, nice to be on your show, Erica, and it's a pleasure, and thank you for such a nice introduction.
Absolutely.
I did see The Doors, which already has people understanding how old I am. You're supposed to keep that quiet.
Oh, darn it.
Oh no, I saw a movie about The Doors. No, I saw The Doors when I was 17. My brother invited me to. He said, "Hey, we're going to go to a concert tomorrow, so bring a change of clothes or whatever." I was going to a technical high school. I was supposed to be not just because today they're elevated to the height beyond anything, an auto mechanic, because nobody knows how to fix a car anymore. But I went to school for auto mechanics and welding and carpentry and all hands-on stuff. And so my brother said, we're going to go see a concert. And I was like, not really too familiar with concerts at the time. And he picked me up and we drove out to Philadelphia to the Spectrum and we saw the Doors play in, I think it was 68. I'm just guessing, but somewhere around that time.
Oh, I have to tell you, I am so jealous because the Doors, I just loved their music. And I'm sure it was an absolute trip to watch Jim Morrison do his little creative whatever he's doing on stage.
Yeah. Well, he would dance around like an Indian in the sense of the Indian portrayed on our Western movies that I grew up with. And Jim Morrison himself said that he had seen an accident on the side of the road when he was a kid, and an Indian had passed away, an American Indian had passed away on the roadside in an accident, and they stopped the car and got out, and he says the spirit of that Indian who had just passed away went into him, and that's what changed his life.
I have never heard that story before. Wow.
Because I just made it up. That's why.
Oh.
No, it's a true story. I remember reading it. Just doing a little entertainment here. Okay. But no, it's very true story, and I always remember that. And he had a lot of that in his music. That whole ritualistic dance that he would do, and was really quite interesting.
It was very ethereal, just incredible stuff. And I remember the Doors had such an impact on me that I made my family we were in Paris and we went to Père Lachaise Cemetery to see Jim Morrison's grave.
Right.
And that was a religious experience for me. So I love it. I love music. And I think that music and art are really essential for all of us. And it's really interesting to me to see how many artists and musicians have UFO sightings.
Yeah, in fact, on your intro, you had the John Lennon sighting mentioned. He mentions it. You have the quote on there. I actually just posted that on my Facebook page about a month ago, and I think it was maybe the only post I've ever put on my website that had no responses. There was nobody.
Really?
Nobody in because a lot of my Facebook friends don't realize that I have this side of me, this interest and this experience. A lot of them don't know that, so a lot of them won't comment on things like that. They don't know what to think of it. So, but yeah, it's I don't know what it is. If we're tuned in, if we're paying more attention, I don't know. I know one thing for sure. I'm paying more attention to looking up in the sky because I'm probably one of the only nuts in my town who does this. I ride around on my bicycle with a really good camera on my back, and I ride through the town looking up in the sky. Everybody wonders what I'm doing, but I managed to catch these objects. And you've seen some of them, Erica, so you know.
Yes, you have captured some incredible things, and I think that this is such a lesson to all of us. If we just paid attention and we looked up or really got off our iPhones and looked at the world around us, there's so many things that we would see that we are maybe unprepared for, but we have to start paying attention. It's imperative.
Yeah, and the iPhone, which is preoccupying everyone's mind, is the very thing that can capture the thing if you look up in the sky. So you're already prepared with the camera. You're ready to go, and but it's got everybody looking down. And yeah, so it's being observant. It's being awake and aware. But the bigger question is, why do I look up in the sky? And I've always pondered this, and I have conversations with people about this. What is it about what I'm expecting to see? Is there something beyond just the the surface question of, or the surface interest of looking up in the sky. Do I have a preset in me to be expecting something?
And that's a really interesting question. And I think from what it sounds like, especially when I read State of Grace and heard about your encounter and with the 12, 13-year-old girl and your intuitive connection at an early age, just your empathy. And I think that's sometimes when we're empathetic and intuitive, we really do sense things in our environment. And so you do wonder, were we destined for this? I don't know. It brings up so many questions. But it sounds like you've had lots of interesting experiences. How old were you when you had your first sighting or experience?
Well, I was a pretty young kid when my brother, Greg, who was outside in the front yard, it was a summer day and we were mowing the lawn and cleaning up, and he goes, "Hey, Doug, get out here. You got to see this." And I just don't remember where I was. It's a funny thing. He says I was in the kitchen, but I don't remember where I was. And somehow he said there was a UFO sitting in the sky, this light discish light that he was just staring at. And then he said it just shot away. And it was dusk, and it was just something that his intuition told him was not a normal thing. And that's the only time I remember anything. But I've had some things happen later on in life that I question, because I have a lot of kick the tires in me. My dad was a car dealer, so I'm like I have a lot of pragmatic and skepticism in me. I just don't believe any little thing in the sky is something. It's a lot of people go overboard when they're looking for something. I don't. I question very hard what I'm looking at, and I try to think it through. But there are some things that just defy description. So I would say I've really been concentrating on everything pretty heavily for the last 7 to 10 years. But I've always, as a kid, been completely enamored with anything that has to do with science fiction films and, Star Trek and, Chiller Theater, anything. Twilight Zone is still probably on the tops. I think Rod Serling and the stories he wrote and the things he thought about shaped me a lot. The empathy, because Rod Serling had an amazing amount of empathy for the little guy, for the persecuted person, for the person left out. He was really, if you revisit his Twilight Zones, they're so strong. And for the serendipity of life and the craziness, karma, everything was in his work, and it made a very big impression on me growing up on all those. And Outer Limits is also a great program that raised a lot of great questions. Not in a comical way. It seems like we've gotten more into this. Everything today has to be linked with war. That's what bothers me about a lot of the newer UFO movies, is that everything is entertainment geared. And so you can't really just sit and wonder. Maybe E.T. was one of the great movies of our more modern generation that was able to just ponder the question about this.
And that is interesting. And E.T., I remember watching E.T. I think I'm not even going to tell you what grade I was in, because that would give away my age. But, I just remembered seeing that, and I was just sobbing at the end. Oh, my Lord. It's this. And I have to say that the more I learn about this, the more I don't know where to go. I think that we've got something benevolent here. I think we've got something that doesn't have our best interests. And I think that it's important for us to be a critical thinker like you are. But, we know that, my gosh, there are these objects that have been shutting down nuclear missile silos. They have been making their presence known. And what are they doing? Why aren't we, as researchers in America, why aren't we concerned about that? It brings up a lot of questions. Yeah,
I mean, first of all, that dovetails into the whistleblowers project that I'm doing, I've committed myself to do 100 portraits of whistleblowers. I'm up to 65 now, and I just want to make a really, really strong statement on this subject as one art object. In other words, the 100 are a collection of one piece. So it's not something I'm interested in selling. I'm not trying to sell them off. You can't go to my site and buy one of these paintings.
Dang it.
Yeah, they're all going to be part of a one collection that I'd like to see in a gallery, an institution, a museum, a traveling exhibit, something like that. And but the reason why, when you start to study the subject, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, when you start to study the subject and realize how vast and wide the sightings are and how credible the people are who have seen them, you just can't ignore it. It's not how the National Enquirer and lousy rag newspapers presented it, and they did that on purpose. I mean, people don't realize that there were government campaigns to get us to associate this topic with being uneducated, being Looney Tune, being drunk, being whatever. And Erica, you know as well as I that this is how they managed to get through 60 or 70 years of keeping this under wraps. By putting anything that had to do with a UFO sighting next to Elvis's cat or something, where with three heads.
Had a cat?
Yeah, I don't know, but if he did, there was a UFO next to it, and they would always associate this topic with nuts and people that are crazy. And then they made sure that the corporate-controlled news would always have their directions to their newscasters to make sure you giggle and smirk and laugh and bring a sort of a wide-eyed, here's a crazy story kind of thing. It's not just normal reporting. Nobody can give a normal report on something. They can't say 5 objects were seen in the sky sitting perfectly still and then shut off at a great rate of speed. They just can't say it. They have to do it by laughing. And that's a program. People don't realize that we've all been brainwashed over the years to elicit a certain reaction, but it happens slowly and over a period of time since we're kids. Erica, do you know Dan Willis of the?
Yes, he's been on my show before. I like Dan a lot.
Yeah, I'm a good friend with Dan, and you go to Dan's site, which is the webmatrix.net. Webmatrix.net. It's so educational, and he has so much backlogged on his site and documented of the story of how these programs worked and how they took over the motion picture industry to create a certain kind of illusion of what an alien is, and there's a concerted effort behind it, and people have to realize that.
Yeah, it's very, very deep, and it's something that isn't really important. And I've been looking at how we're engaging this topic in the past couple decades, I have to say that now we are the biggest problem. We have come into this egocentric place where in America especially we feel that it is more important to spend 10 hours a day on Facebook dialoguing and banging your fists on your chest talking about, oh, I'm debunking this case or I'm doing this or that, when we know that this is happening. So how about we spend all of our time and make a concerted effort to obtaining funding and supporting organizations that have merit and doing field research study and making a difference. We just don't do that, and it's the craziest thing to me.
Yeah, no, you make a great point, I think. It's perplexing to me how certain people have certain kind of sightings, like I have, and I've documented them, and I'll post them, or I'll send them in, or I'll do something with them, and someone else will have the same kind of sighting somewhere else, like across the country or halfway around the world, but there's nobody that will take those sightings and say, now look, these are in the same category. These are very similar. Doug saw his on September whatever, and John saw his on October so-and-so, and this is what the areas were, and they look very similar. In other words, nobody's doing that kind of thing either. Nobody's really taking at least I'm not aware of that. I don't see anyone really taking care of that aspect of it.
No, they're not. And that was my great dismay when I was involved with MUFON. It's like, oh my gosh, we've got 40 years of data. Nothing's been done with it. And there are patterns here. And what are we doing to identify the patterns and then get people out in the field where you've got hotspots? I mean, this wasn't happening. And to me, that wasn't really necessarily rocket science. So now I am moving forward with my partner in crime, Jeff Cox, who was formerly the assistant state director of MUFON in Utah. And we're doing that. We're trying to engage people all over the world because I truly believe it is through people like us that we're going to make the biggest difference. You know, we can reach out, we can find people that we trust and respect, and we can get good information.
Yeah, and what people have to understand is this is not just about we're seeing weird things in the sky. My interest in ufology has to do with the broader and bigger picture. Obviously, the idea of life existing and being known about is a paradigm shift for our world. It would be an incredible thing to completely grasp and get under control, get under understanding. But I mean, it's the energy, it's the idea that if they have propulsion technical capabilities with propulsion, anti-gravity, and able to make right-hand turns and so at high rates of speed, which is what the witnesses are saying, and they can propel their crafts like what Bob Lazar testifies about, and many others, that they have anti-gravitic, then we would be aware of this, and we most likely do have it, and this is what needs to be brought forward.
Absolutely. I think there's so many facets, and I think the quicker that we can learn how to communicate effectively and engage the mainstream scientific community and make a bold statement. Yes, we know this is happening. This is not a belief system. This is happening. Now, what are we going to do about this? I think that all of these questions, we could start to answer some of these questions if we could form a cohesive unit and reframe the dialogue.
Yeah, and it's very similar to the problem with pilots, for example. If pilots have sightings, they've lived with the idea that they can't really say anything about it, because if they do, they'll be brought up and talked to about the fact that they're not fit to be a pilot anymore because there's too much controversy over is somebody seeing something or whatever. So it's the same thing with this situation with scientists, is that if government funding is contingent on playing ball in a certain area of science research, then they're not going to be able to break free and get into this topic.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get back from break. But I am Erica Lukes, and you're listening to UFO Classified here on KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network. We will take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Where'd that shot come from?
Alpha 3 to Eagle 1. We've got company.
From Tay Publishing, codename Eagle Force, the saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TayPublishing.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Should we tell him the news?
I think we should tell him.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's all right.
Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. It gets hot, really hot.
You behave. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Come listen to the Core Sports Report hosted by Devin Dodson and Bob Lake as they break down the current scores, sports betting lines, and spreads. The Core Sports Report, whether it's pro or college sports, they have it covered.
Who are we talking about?
The Core Sports Report, live Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The only guys I trust to give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
When it comes to sports.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Erica Lukes, and you're listening to the best in radio, KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network, and it's Ladies' Night here on Fantopia Friday. So we have got a lovely lineup of intelligent, strong women coming up after my show is Joanna Roth on Universal Child, and then the lovely Tina Marie on Restricted Airspace, and then Hyperspace with Solaris Blue Raven. So grab a cocktail, get your pajamas on, and tune in for a great night on KCOR. Find me on Facebook and send me a message if you have any interesting sightings or experiences. Please make sure you spread the word about UFO Classified. And if you are down in New Mexico on October 22nd, I will be there speaking for MUFON, New Mexico. And this will be great. I'll be with John Greenwald, Stanton Friedman, and Dave Marler. It should be a wonderful event. I will also be speaking at Starworks Symposium coming up in Laughlin, Nevada, November 11th through the 13th. And my guest tonight, who is a world-renowned artist and has been featured on Entertainment Tonight, Absolute Vodka, had one of his works back in 1993. He was commissioned to do a painting of Jim Morrison for the MTV Museum of Unnatural History. He has done amazing work, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But Doug is going to join me at Starworks. How cool is this?
And that's the first time we will meet, which will be great. And I look forward to coming out and meeting a lot of the people. Actually, many of the people that I've painted, I think.
And that will be so wonderful. And the people that you've painted, I want everyone, if you are by your computer, which obviously you are, you're listening to the show, but go to DougAuld.com and see his new series, The Whistleblowers, because they are beautiful. I love your use of light, and I love your broad brush strokes and the way you capture people. And I have to say that Tom DeLonge, your painting of Tom DeLonge is just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, let me just explain that when I decided to do the series of portraits on whistleblowers, and I mentioned to you earlier, I'm going to do 100 portraits. They're small. I don't want to say spontaneous, but they're more reactionary works. I don't let myself get tripped over them. I just work from instinct now, and I move the way I want to move with my hand and leave the brush stroke and the paint to show. And that's purposeful now because my early work, which you know about, which people can see also on DougAuld.com, and that's AULD, Doug Auld. My earlier works were so detail-oriented. Those paintings took 2 and 3 months to do, each one of those paintings. They were so involved and intricate. The painting is of the burn survivors, the adolescent burn survivors. And maybe I would do 4 or 5 in a year. Whereas now I'm doing these paintings in 1 to 3 days. That's how I'm working on these whistleblowers. I'm allowing them to just take their course, run, go where they're going to go. I'm not overthinking them. And it's one of the things that artists know is that you get a spontaneous, energetic look in a painting, and then you work on it too long, and it's like overcooking some soup or something, and you just destroy it.
Yeah, I think I've overcooked a lot of soup in my time then.
Yeah, too much seasoning, and you're like, oh man, I wish I could take this back to the way it tasted a half hour ago. But that's what it's the same thing with painting, and you can overwork something. And so I'm really just trying to be instinctual about the works and show people that they are paintings, they are handmade, because we are entering a time now where we're inundated with photography, we're inundated with CGI. We have so much imagery that you can look at some of these sci-fi looking paintings that you see on the websites all over the place, where it looks like 1,000 angels are like coming out of the sky and landing, and then the dragons are blowing fire and all this stuff. If Leonardo or Rembrandt were alive today to try to have to make something similar to that, it would be daunting for them. And yet these computer artists are able to create these images in fast fashion because of the technology that we have. So I don't really see the point of me adding to a very, very slick photo-looking images. I'm trying to show people that these are hand-done, similar to if you went to an antique show and saw antique furniture. There's definitely a difference between that handmade antique furniture and IKEA furniture. Both are functional, but one is hand-scrolled real wood and a work of art and a labor of love by an individual, and another is a kind of a fabricated functional item. And so that's where I'm going with my new works. I want people to know that they're handmade, and that there is a hand and a brush in it, and it's paint on a flat surface creating this illusion, but they still look realistic. They still have I've always been a realist painter. I've never been able to let myself go into the abstract world. I just never feel right about it. I'm like, nope, this has got to look better. It's got to look like something. So it's not really my language, so I stay away from it, and I'm destined to be a realist painter.
Oh my gosh, they are just absolutely beautiful. And it's interesting for me, I started painting 5 years ago, and I am a singer, as you know, we talked about that, but I never thought I could pick up a brush. And my friend brought me a paint set, and then I just picked up that brush and I started painting just like a crazy woman. And it was so amazing to me. It was so calming, and just it engrossed me, and it was wonderful to see just where your mind takes you and things. And when I look at your work and the way you do things, especially with the whistleblowers, it's so beautiful. I wish I could paint like that, because when I do like portraits of people. They look like some sort of weird alien man baby. I mean, if it's just not right.
Maybe you're bringing the weird alien man baby out in them. I mean, but they
funny,
also.
I've tried to paint portraits of my family members and friends, and my daughter finally just said, "Mom, please never do that again."
Well, portraiture is very demanding, and if you watched me paint, I learn best by watching someone. Watch someone ride a bicycle, and you'll figure it out. Watch someone do this, and I remember I'm pretty much self-taught, but I took some continuing ed and education in New York City and the Art Students League, and went over to SVA for a class, and then I went down and did maybe a continuing ed course at the Academy for Fine Art. It was down on lower Manhattan. I'm trying to remember the name. But anyway, there was a particular teacher there who was a very, very excellent painter, and I was really intimidated by his skill level. I didn't think I'd ever be able to paint like that. And I remember him doing the demonstration, and I remember him taking a break and standing in the back of the room and looking at the painting he was working on from a distance. And I walked back to him and I said, "Steve, how are you feeling? How's everything going?" And he goes, "Erica, this was the single most important thing I ever heard in learning to paint." He looked at me and he said, "Man, I'm struggling." And I went, "You're struggling?" Like, you look so good, and and then it dawned on me that everyone. It's not, we have this picture of talent as, while he's playing the piano with the left hand and lecturing on the right and painting with over here, it's like John Singer Sargent. I mean, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of commitment, and you just have to start to break the system down. And now, I mean, most people wouldn't realize that when I started painting, I take a paper towel with turpentine and some paint, and I take a white canvas, and the first thing I do is I get rid of all the white, 1, 2, 3, and with a paper towel. I don't even use a paintbrush. So, like, someone may say that just starts painting, they may say, "Oh, you can do that?" Well, that's what I mean. In other words, you don't know what you can and you can't do unless you watch somebody and get onto it. And you start to see how it's done. And I paint very much like a sculptor sculpts. I cut into it. I don't draw exacts anywhere. I cut into large pieces and then I work into it.
And that is so cool. It's fun. I took some lessons from my father, who is a realist, and he's won lots of awards, international awards. And I have another friend who is, oh my gosh, she does the most beautiful nudes, and she studied in Florence and just is wonderful. But it's so funny to see the different styles and the way you prime the canvas and all of these things. It really is fun. And I know for those of you listening who want to hear about UFOs, you're wondering what any of this has to do with anything, but it really does. It's that inspiration. It's the intuitiveness of being a musician or a painter that I believe truly kind of leads you to question reality or to look at a broader picture. And I think artists are great at that.
And also, Erica, that my work, the subject matter of my work, being the whistleblowers, dovetails into the subject of UFOs, which I have a great interest in. Because if you've noticed that my whistleblower collection so far, some are some are political in their side of things. Some are environmental, some medical. But the mainstay of the people I'm fascinated with is the UFO community. I'm so fascinated with this community because they seem to have so little motive. So many of these people, this is not not a great money-making thing for Travis Walton, who had the sighting 40 years ago, to stick to this story. If this was an idea to make a lot of money, it was a very poor idea. Because just getting a regular job would have done him better. This is a true event that happened, and you analyze it and look at all these different people that have had these experiences from radar technicians and military people, and we even have an ex-Prime Minister of Canada, Paul Hellyer, who has come out and said that this is real. I mean, this is a high official coming out and saying that this is real because he's taken a good, strong look at it. It's the greatest story never told. Everybody that studies this and really gets into it knows this. And you said earlier, Erica, about the nuclear facilities, that this is really, a lot of it has to do with the nuclear missile facilities and our development of the atomic bomb, which sent the EMPs out into the universe. That message was like a calling card, and that's when they started to really come around. So, you know, my art reflects my interest in things in my life, and that's what this series of paintings is doing. Because if everybody gets involved in the knowing of these people just through, let's say through a painting, they go to a museum, and let's say I happen to have a show of all these works, people may walk in there and go, okay, who is so-and-so? Who is Phil Schneider?
Yes.
Who is that? And they may jot that down, or they may Google it while they're in the museum, and all of a sudden they're introduced to a topic that they never would have been brought to. And I think that art has that ability. Art has the ability to speak to people in a quieter and a slower mindset, especially if it's in the context of an art venue like a museum or a gallery.
Well, and I have to say your work of Phil Schneider, I'm looking at it right now, and the eyes are so deep, and it looks like he is a little bit younger than perhaps some of the video I just remember him in before he passed away. It's beautiful. But tell us a little bit about Phil Schneider for those who don't know who he is.
Well, Phil Schneider, he was involved in underground tunnels, and he worked with tunneling equipment and so on. And he came forward and said that they had actually broken through underground, because he came forward to make the claim that we have tunnels all over the world. I mean, there's tunneling equipment that people would not believe that connect underground areas. That is just kind of not really above board information. And he spoke about this, and he was working, and they broke through into the ground into a large opening, a large area where he said the smell down there was horrible, and they encountered what he claimed to be alien beings. They were like, I believe he described them as reptilian alien beings, and there was a firefight, and the firefight was so severe that he got part of his hand blown off and his whole section of his stomach cut open by an explosion. And he credits a Marine that was either with him or down there with saving his life, because they threw him in a bucket, and the bucket was brought up and brought out of the cavern. And that's why he survived. And God only knows what happened down there and down to the people that, the person that saved him. But this was, he went on speaking tours and talked about this, and he had evidence, tangible in his hand, evidence of metal, and you could see his hand. It was all only one or two fingers on one hand, and he had the scars to back up the story. So you look at it and you go, well, come on, this is crazy. How could this be real? But I mean, here's a person who's stuck with this for so long, this story. For what purpose? This is one of the things that I always ask myself. What is to be gained by creating this incredibly crazy story that you have to live up to and constantly lie about for the rest of your life? It never made any sense to me. So this is what Phil Schneider talked about.
And it's interesting because you're talking about Phil Schneider and the underground tunnels, and I'm remembering back in 2013 in Seattle, Washington, when they were digging, they were expanding the underground transportation system there, and they unearthed something that kind of impeded their progress. Do you remember that? Do you remember seeing that on the news?
Vaguely remember that, yes, but I can't tell you anything about it.
And there was a lot of speculation that what they'd uncovered was some sort of UFO or something, but it stopped the machine, Bertha is what it was called, in its tracks. And from what I remember about that, they never came forward after the story broke to say what they had uncovered.
Well, again, we all have to remember that the news, what we watch, if you just go to work and come home and put on the news, you're watching news that is owned by I think 6 corporations altogether: Comcast, I think Disney, Time Warner, Viacom, CBS, and maybe one other, Fox or something. But they own everything. They own all the news, and if they have a way of getting together, to decide what kind of information is fed to the public, they'll make sure that they sanitize that out, or they'll allow just enough of it to leak through to cover their tails that they announced it, but there'll be no cover-up. No follow-up. There'll be no follow-up to the story. The story is an amazing story, but you'll never hear it again. So it's we're beholden to the corporate-controlled media also.
And I will say that, I had a really interesting experience here in Utah where I was going against the school board and all of these things. And I think that, unfortunately, mainstream media just doesn't want to sink their teeth into anything. I mean, it's such an immediate gratification thing that they're on to the next. So even if it wasn't the UFO topic, I think that's just the problem of mainstream media in general. They don't want to do any digging and investigation, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, because it's entertainment. And as long as you keep the thing moving along. I mean, I remember watching the O.J. Simpson chase, and I don't want to get off on this too far, but the O.J. Simpson chase on TV was like a spectacle. And after that, I noticed all these new careers made. Greta Van Susteren and this one and that one. And all of a sudden, news went from maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times a day to a 24-hour news cycle. Now, how do you fill a 24-hour news cycle? So it's just entertainment. It's the same thing with when you see a political debate and there's they're grilling someone, and that person will say, "No, I don't have that information for you, but I'll get back to you tomorrow with that information." And they say, "Thank you, Senator." Well, you never hear that again. So there's never any follow-through. All somebody has to say when they're being interviewed on TV is, "I don't have that with me right now, but I'd like to get back to you with that tomorrow." And it puts it off, and you think you're actually going to hear it again, but you're never going to hear anything.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I think that we've become so numb to things. It's just like we have this ADD kind of brain that the media and technology is instilled in us, and I think that's unfortunate because we don't. It's like, okay, we're going to believe what they say, and on to the next, and we never pay attention. We don't pay attention to what politicians are doing behind closed doors. We don't take accountability for our community, and we're not active. And it's to me, this is a very alarming trend.
Well, one of my whistleblowers is named Aaron Russo. Are you familiar with Aaron Russo?
No.
Aaron Russo, he's on my site, and Aaron Russo he was a film producer and director, and he unfortunately died at a young age of cancer. But Aaron tells a story of having dinner with one of the Rockefellers, and he was one of the Rockefellers approached Aaron Russo about, I think, his movie Trading Places, or I don't know, one of his movies, and you can look up his movies and see what he made, but. And the short of it is that Aaron said, "Look, I went to this guy's house," and he basically said, "Look, Aaron, why don't you come with us?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean, come with us?" He goes, "Come with us. Come on, come with us. Come with the winners. Basically, here's what we're doing." And he told Aaron the story, and he said, "Look," he goes, "You think women's liberation was an uprising of women to create their birthright and take their proper position in the world?" He goes, "Nonsense." He says, "We created that. We created women's liberation for a bigger tax base. We wanted to get the women in the workplace, and we wanted to get the children away from the women so that they'd have to work and they'd be they'd be giving the children up to the state, in a sense. He went on from that to talked about so many other things you'd be horrified to hear. And he mentioned, prior to 9/11, he mentioned the fact that there's going to be an event. And after that event, we're going to go into 5 countries in 7 years. Just Google Aaron Russo and watch his videos, and you'll hear this.
Wow. And he did I did look him up, Trading Places, one of my all-time favorites, Wise Guys in the Rose. I mean, so he was a brilliant director. Wow.
Yeah, and one of the Rockefellers, I forget which one it was, had dinner with him and spoke to him like this and basically portended the 9/11 event. He said there's going to be a big event. It's going to change the world, and after that we're going to go into all these countries in 7 years, or 7 countries in 5 years, and we're going to reshape the world, which means it was, this stuff that people are aware of with the Bilderberg Group and Skull and Bones and all these secret societies and everything. This is real stuff. This is what people do.
Thank you for introducing me to him. I'm going to look him up tonight and do some more research. This is incredible. It's wonderful, and I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other people that you have portrayed in the Whistleblower series. It's beautiful. Make sure, if you have a second, my friends out there, to go to DougAuld.com and see his beautiful work, and we are going to have a great conversation. This is fun. It's fun to have you here, Doug. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Erica Lukes. You're listening to UFO Classified. And next week, I have got Ronnie LeBlanc on the show, and he is an author. He wrote Monsterland, and this is about one of my favorite subjects, orange orbs. He has done a lot of research. It will be a really cool show, so tune in. And you can also go to Amazon and buy his book, Monsterland. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Erica Lukes, and you're listening to KCOR Digital Broadcasting Network. It is a fabulous, beautiful fall Friday night here in Utah, and I want to give a shout out to my friend and colleague Jeff Cox, who is listening tonight. He is helping me with all sorts of research, and we have a group called Unexplained Utah. We went out to do a little investigation in Mercer, Utah last weekend, and Mercer was the first place that developed the cyanide process. And it was just a cool town, funky little graveyard, We had a great night, and I appreciate Jeff so much. I also want to thank all of you for listening every week. My friends Irv and Huska and Karen, everybody, you mean so much to me, and I'm truly doing this because I care about this subject, and to me, this is the most important thing I will ever do with my life, and we have to get good, credible information, and we have to work together to figure out exactly what it is we're dealing with. My guest tonight is a person who is just an amazing artist. I can't explain to you how beautiful I think his work is, and many others do as well. He has received international attention for two of the Whistleblower series, but then State of Grace, which is adolescent burn victims. And oh my gosh, this is just beautiful. Please go to DougAuld.com to see his work. And we are talking about the whistleblowers. And let's go, Doug, let's talk about some more of the people that you've chosen for this series. And you have Dr. John Mack on here. And he has been, talk about a beautiful human being, a tremendous sacrifice, and a brave soul. He is it.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody that I truly admire is John E. Mack. And what a shame that we lost him to a car accident. Allegedly, a drunk driver hit him when he was crossing a street or whatever. And I think it was left at that. I don't know if there was ever really investigated, but I still to this day have a little doubt in my head that was a legitimate story. But then again, I have no otherwise. But Johnny Mack was, here's a Harvard graduate, PhD in psychology, who took an interest in the UFO abduction topic. In fact, he had no interest in it, and he said, "Well, this is crazy. This is something too far out for me." But I think somebody introduced him to Bud Hopkins, if I'm not mistaken, and from there it started. Bud Hopkins, an artist and someone who was working with UFO abductees, and Johnny Mack got into it, and you would think he would have gotten into it and just turned away from it if there was nothing there for him, but he got so overwhelmingly convinced that this is real, that these people are having real experiences. They are normal people otherwise. They are, paying their bills and going to work and so on, but their stories are extraordinary, and so many of them linked up together. And so Johnny Mack, I included him in my whistleblower project because he's a real pioneer in this area with credibility to go ahead and to put his reputation at risk and to come out, what's the motive for most people in life? It's success and money and all this. It's pretty simple. What motivates people? Money's usually one of the main things, and yet. Why go into a direction where money wouldn't be there for you? I mean, there's a lot of credibility in what John E. Mack did, and my favorite UFO sighting is the 63 school children, and I think it's Zimbabwe. Erica, do you know that story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My gosh. That was talk about a powerful thing. And in fact, I saw one of the girls that was at the schoolyard, and she was at UFO Congress a couple of years ago, and to hear her story, she got up on stage and talked about it. And she's a pretty young girl, so I think it might have been 73. It might have been a little bit later, actually. And I will do a little check right now to see when that was. But that was so profound. And here are these little 5, 6, 7-year-old children who are seeing this ship and seeing beings coming out of it, and it was incredible. And then you have all of the teachers and the parents saying this was not made up, this wasn't a hallucination, this was something that was very real. And it was great that John Mack came in there with his team to document this.
Yeah, I really find it hard to believe that anyone could coordinate all these school children to tell this story, A, to keep them consistent with it, B, Kids don't care. They're kids. If kid's going to make something up, today, by tomorrow he's not even going to remember it, or he's going to be on to something else. But to have these children draw them, they drew all the pictures that these kids drew, and Johnny Mac asking them all these different questions, and how sincere and penetrating their eyes were, and how they answered the questions, and how they seemed to know it by instinct what the beings were telling them. It wasn't like through the mouth or anything. That these kids were telling something that only adults would really know. And I love, Erica, do you remember when they talked about the fact that the beings, the kids were playing hopscotch and hopping on the ground, and then the beings were doing the same thing. They were imitating. It was like they were imitating or hopping out of the ship or something like that. I remember watching a program on it not too long ago, and they were hopscotching or hopping or imitating the children, maybe to make the children feel more comfortable. I don't know. But a fascinating, absolutely fascinating story.
Oh, it is. And to see the interviews, and I just want to say that I don't know where we got 63 or 73. We're clearly living back in when music was good, but it was 1994.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
like
when
the
that
70s.
happened?
Yes.
I thought it was the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, and it was, this case is so amazing. And it really was the first time that somebody in academia really went out on a limb and wanted to do this. And it was great. And I have to say, for people that are listening tonight too, one of my favorite videos of all time is Dr. Jacques Vallée, Terence McKenna, John Mack, and Bud Hopkins.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And that, wow, what a dialogue there. So it's incredible that you have chosen John Mack and then Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Carrie Cassidy, Steve Bassett, and Billy Meyer. Let's talk a little bit about Billy Meyer.
Yeah, Billy Meyer is a really perplexing case because I hear so much controversy and yay and nay to him, but I believe this to be true. I just do. And Wendell Stevens, Colonel Wendell Stevens, who I'm considering including in my whistleblower series, Colonel Wendell Stevens went out there with a team of people, and I mean, he went out there. This is a military guy. This is a guy that knows stuff, and he knows equipment and aircraft and everything. And he went out there and he stayed with them and visited there and saw all the film footage. They went and they had it tested. They had the film tested and analyzed, and it was all credible. It all came back as being real. And then you ask yourself, how does this one-armed man, missing an arm, I think he was in a bus and it got, somehow his arm was out the window, if I remember this correctly, something like that. But how is a one-armed man, a very, very sincere guy, in my opinion, fabricate this? I mean, how do you build and fabricate all this stuff, and for what purpose? I mean, I just never understood it. Now, are you aware of the gentleman that works with him? What's his name? Michael Horn. Do you know Michael Horn?
Yes, I know of him.
Well, I happen to like Michael Horn. I know I'm going against a lot of the ufology. But Michael has always been very kind to me. I contacted him and I wrote him and he wrote me back, and we wrote each other several times, and I've written him over the years here and there. And he's always been very, very cordial and very nice and answers emails. But he does come off a little strong because he feels that Billy Meyer is the only real, verifiably true, provable UFO witness or case or whatever. And I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
He has created quite a controversy. In fact, I need to get him on the show because I would love to hear more about this. And the whole thing is fascinating. And I think kind of the gist that I have heard is that he did have really true contact experiences, but then perhaps later in his life, they weren't. And so I don't know. I really don't know. It's perplexing.
That's what is perplexing, because why, if it is integral and real, why then later on in life muck it up with fabrications? Because I do remember you've probably seen all the footage as I have, and I've seen the beam ships and them come and go and the photos and this and that. But then they show you that big kind of like weird looking like party hat, kind of like with all the round silver balls on it, and you're like, are you kidding me? This is and that's what happens. That's what you end up feeling. But I don't know. But I still think on the whole, it's very hard to really know because I wasn't there. But I don't know. But my instincts tell me that he's genuine.
And I think the interesting thing, I mean, you bring up that photograph, and I think now, we see a lot of similar things where I have, with the Orange Orb research that I have done, I mean, I have gone and scoured videos and from databases and going on YouTube and different things. And there are videos that I find quite perplexing, and yet somebody who is a quote unquote UFO researcher, debunker, I don't know, whatever they are, would immediately dismiss it.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's CGI. I think there's something more to it. And so, oh boy, I think we just have to be a little bit perhaps more reserved with our judgment. And I think it is unfortunate that you have people who are involved in large organizations or really prominent researchers that come out and debunk things so quickly because there might be more to the story.
I agree with you, Eric. I think this is a real problem. And, this whole idea of, listen, what is important to someone? Is it your reputation? Is it your business? Or is it truth? We're in a field here where the ultimate thing to me is the truth of the matter. And if I realize I was wrong with something, I have no problem saying in 6 months coming back on your show and saying, by the way, that Billy Meyer thing I told you is real. It's not. I just learned that it isn't. I mean, I have no problem telling you and changing my mind. There are researchers that are really, really I admire. There's two gentlemen in the UK. Are you aware of Rich Hall from Rich Planet?
I am. Yes, I've heard of him.
Okay, Rich Hall. And then there's Andrew Johnson. Andrew and I have spoken many times, and I really admire Andrew Johnson. Not to get off on this subject too far, but he's a UFO investigator and all sorts of issues like 9/11. And he supports Dr. Judy Wood's theories of where did the towers go, the idea that there's not enough substantial material on the ground to substantiate a gravity collapse. And there's no seismic record of the building hitting the ground. There's a lot of questions, and he goes against the architects and engineers' outlook that it was a gravity collapse caused by thermite. And then, of course, he got Gordon Duff from the Veterans Today side of things saying it was a nuclear detonation. Nobody is saying it was the government story. See, nobody seems to agree with that. But the idea that Andrew Johnson was change his mind. He was supporting the nanothermite story for a long time until he ran into Dr. Judy Wood and read her book, Where Did the Towers Go? And he came out and said, I was flat wrong. This is what did it. This is the story. This is the book that's got the compelling research. And I brought that up for a reason, because I think we all have to stay open to not, like you said earlier, not making such judgments, or just because, for example, Secure Team, that UFO channel, just because they show something doesn't mean it's automatically CGI, and right. I see a lot of people say that. They say, "Oh, well, it's Secure Team, so it's CGI." No, that doesn't necessarily mean that. And so we're all fighting each other on a topic that's very, very difficult, and we're not helping each other by not doing proper investigation or homework, or being patient enough to say, "I don't know."
Exactly. And I think that we truly have a field, especially in the United States now, that is so ego-driven that there is no good research coming out of the United States. And if there is, it is all underground. I have talked to many people that I've had to find through various channels that have written books, that have contributed, that will not have any involvement in this field anymore because of the behavior that we see. And it's, I think that organizations have to enforce ethical and professional standards. I think that we have to, as individuals and researchers, we have to do that as well, because if we don't, then mainstream science will not engage with us, and we will not keep the caliber of people involved in this pursuit that we need to have involved.
Yeah, I agree. Two of the most exciting people for me, this is just my own opinion, that I'm really very excited about is Chris Bledsoe, who we both know.
Yes.
And Tom DeLonge. I mean, I'm very impressed with a lot of things Tom DeLonge has to say. A lot of people are very skeptical of him, but I'm like thinking to myself, here's a guy who doesn't need this. Come on, he's got girls galore. He's got a career as a rock star. He's got, just go to his Instagram. He's got 30,000 followers. He's got tons of fans. He's making money. He's got a band. Why does he need to go jump ship and get involved in this whole Area 51 and write the book Secret Machines, which I haven't read yet, but I'm aware of it, and I've listened to many of his interviews, and he keeps saying over and over again that you guys have no idea what's coming. You just have no idea what's coming. It is a major, major shift. And when I hear him talk like this, I believe he's talking this way for a reason. I believe he knows something, and I don't know how he got there, and I don't know who he's working with. But he's one of them. And Chris Bledsoe, who is very well aware of Tom DeLonge, and who Tom DeLonge is also working with, Chris is just somebody also who does not want to have too much to do with the circus out there. And I know you know him, and I know you've spoken about this.
Yes, I have. And I think that Chris is not only one of the kindest human beings I've ever met in my life, but he and his family have had oh my gosh, how many years of experiences. And to me, to see the way he was treated by a certain organization, it was really, it's a shame, and we can't do that. And again, this goes back to that ego-driven thing. I have to be right. I have to be the first person to debunk this or do whatever. And we have to take great care of the people we are dealing with. And again, this isn't about our ego. This is about finding out the truth. And until we're willing to set aside some of that nonsense, we will never make any progress, and it's imperative that we do.
I know. Well, I included Chris in my whistleblower series. You can see the portrait there, and anyone can go and look up their names and Google them. Or with Chris, it was the Fayetteville incident, and he was on a program called. It was on the History Channel, I think.
UFOs over Earth.
Yeah, and by the way, Erica, I reacted so strongly to Chris's testimony. It was so strong, and then I heard him on Mel Fabregas' show, Veritas.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote Mel, who's the nicest man. He's always been very nice to me. I never met him, but I wrote him a letter, and I said, I'd love to contact Chris Bledsoe. I'm so impressed with this man's testimony. And he forwarded my email to Chris, and Chris got back to me, and Chris and I immediately became the greatest friends, and in no time, sight unseen, didn't even know who this guy was. I said, Chris, can I come out and see you? He invited me to his home, and I got on a flight and stayed at the Bledsoe's house for 3 days.
Oh.
And I met the whole family, and his son, Chris Jr., told me, without me prompting him, I didn't say a word, and Chris Sr. was very amazed that Chris Jr. was even willing to talk to me, and he told me the story, how it happened from his eyes.
Oh, my gosh.
And to go out with Chris and have lunch with him and sit across from him at the lunchtime and see tears running down his eyes when he's telling me the strain and stress he's been through with his family and his son running away and the stress on the marriage and the family. It was amazing. I'm completely convinced this is a real incident. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, but you don't have to understand it. That's how I feel about it.
No, and I agree. And interviewing him and getting to know him as a friend, to see the stress and to hear exactly like what you were saying, just the emotion of the trauma that his whole family has gone through. And now I think they've come to terms with it, and they understand that whatever this is around them is interacting with them. And it really has been a positive thing now. But I really have to stress that as people that are researching this, we have to take care of people coming forward. And if you're in this to smear somebody's family on network TV, then there's a problem there.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, but I think that it is really cool for me to know that we know, Chris, that now we're making all of these connections, and we're finding people that are very trustworthy, high caliber people that have had experiences and that we want to protect, and we trust each other. And I think that's a really great thing.
Yeah, and I think that we all have to be tolerant of the differences in each person's experience. I mean, we don't know the vastness of this universe. We have no clue. So, can you imagine someone dipped into our world from outer space, scooped up some water from the ocean and flew back home, and they looked at it and they said, well, I guess everybody that lives on the planet are tiny little microscopic creatures. I mean, it would be rather small, myopic way of looking at it. They missed the whales, they missed the sharks, they missed everything. And we have people that will tell one story. Now we have orange orbs, but there are green orbs. There used to not be as many orbs. There used to be more disks. I think we don't really know, and Jacques Vallée has a lot of very, very interesting views on this, who I admire very much. And I just think we don't really know. We have to be open-minded. I take everything in, and I park it in this box in my head that says, just let it sit there.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to go to break. This is our last break. Oh my gosh, it always makes me so sad. I'm Erica Lukes, and I am here with Doug Auld. You can go to DougAuld.com to see his beautiful work. We will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Three guys, no tie.
Oh, because I've seen all kinds of different actors and various backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds on CBS.
You do?
Yeah, I watch, what was it? Who was on A Person of Interest?
Yeah.
And then, of course, The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, huge.
Big Bang Theory has Raj.
Yeah.
Has Raj.
That's the one white guy, or non-white guy.
Three guys, no ties. Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. Right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we take the KCOR Digital Radio Network off the grid and go deep inside the paranormal vault. Jump on the elevator and come take the ride down the rabbit hole of reality with BK Mojave and The Watcher as they unlock the vault and dust off some of their classified paranormal case files even the government doesn't know about. The Paranormal Vault, Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the one show our secret government fears will speak the truth.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie. featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. For Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone, for the final segment of my show tonight. I have to say I'm a little sad about that because I've been having a great time, and it's always wonderful to know that you're listening. I appreciate you very, very much, and you are the reason that I'm here. I will be in New Mexico on October 22nd to speak at the New Mexico MUFON event. This is going to be really, really cool. So if you're in the area, please come. John Greenwald, Stanton Friedman, and Dave Marler will be there. We are going to have this is going to be a barn burner. I think you really need to be there. So anyway, if you can't make that, then I will be in Laughlin at the Star Wars Symposium. The topic is art, music, and UFOs, which is what we're talking about tonight. That is November 11th through the 13th. And you can go to starworks.com to make reservations. My guest tonight, Doug Auld, is a musician. He's an artist. He is a very conscious, intuitive human being that has had life experiences that have really shaped him and his work. And Doug, I'm really happy to have you here. I knew the second I looked at your artwork that we would be friends.
Yeah, that was great that we were friends immediately, and I knew the second that I heard you interviewing Chris, who we're mutual friends with, that we would get along great.
I know, and it's just so cool to me because it seems like, and you feel the same way. We were talking about that once you find one person and then another one appears and another one, and you have this instant camaraderie with people that have integrity and that are trying to do the same thing, which is just figure out what we're engaged with, what we're dealing with.
Mm. Well, I think that for me personally, I think that the game is running out in a sense. How much more football and baseball and hockey and sports stars and celebrities and blah blah blah, the whole thing. How much more can you keep buying into? I mean, my dad used to tell me when he went to see the Yankees or the Giants or whoever, it was unheard of, absolutely unheard of, that if you were on the Giants or the Yankees, that you would not be on that team the next year. It was absolutely unheard of. And now every sports person, it's a business, and every sports person will be on a team one year and on another team the next, and everything's all over the place for $50 and $100 million contracts, and the person's you can't even substantiate that the person will be healthy in the next 3 to 5 years, and that they're paying him all this money. To me, the whole game is running out, and I'm an athlete myself. I love ice hockey. I play it 3-4 times a week, and I've been playing all my life. But I don't go to games. I don't bother. I don't do this and that. And I'm not trying to down it. You understand? I'm just saying that I think the world is running on empty in a lot of areas, and I think that we're waiting for the next step. I feel it. I think a lot of people feel it too. I think a lot of people feel that it's running out. We just can't. We're growing. We're learning too much. We see through things too much now. Look at this political season, and look at all of it. So I just feel like it's time, and I know people like Stephen Bassett, who've been working really hard at this, and Dr. Greer, Stephen Greer, the Disclosure Project. What a fantastic project in the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. And as Dan Willis would tell me, he thought that it was going to be all over the news and that everything was going to come out, and all of a sudden the news doesn't even bother to cover it. I mean, come on, it's insane. And Stephen Bassett right now, if you get his newsletter, he's like saying, this is insane. Look at all the articles that have come out in the past couple of years on Hillary Clinton and the ET connection, be it the Rockefeller Initiative and her involvement with and John Podesta and his interest in the topic, and his tweets and everything that's said in the press about them, and yet the news never covers it. She's never asked a question about it. So I think there's something really building and coming, and I don't think they can keep the lid on it much longer.
No, they can't. And I believe with the privatization of space and all of these things that they understand that, and whatever this is seems to be interacting with us more frequently. And between that, the privatization of space, this is a very interesting time. The fact that we're developing and testing all of these weapons that could wipe us out, and we are seeing global warming that is having severe consequences on our planet. So there's so many things that are coming to a head.
Yeah.
And what does this mean? And how is whatever that is interacting with us, how does that play? I mean, we know that this is taking an interest because it started to really monitor what was happening back in 1952 in the Washington flap. But it's just fascinating. And to me, I still don't know, Doug, like why don't people pay attention? Why is the ufology community in the United States so out of it? Really?
I don't know. I see. Is there a phone call? I think someone's calling in. Did you see that, Erica?
No, there's somebody calling in. This is exciting.
Yeah. It says,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay. Sorry, I just saw this. Okay, so we have a phone call from somebody who is actually one of my friends who works with Fran Ridge, and who is going to be on my show in 2 weeks. Challen Holt, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Thank you for calling. Hey, we are great, and we're very excited that you called in.
It has been a fantastic show, I have to say. I learned a lot. I didn't know. I apologize, Doug. I didn't know who you were. I did a lot of research during the show.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't know people until you get to meet them. Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah, exactly.
I have a question, and this goes along with something you guys were talking about just a few moments ago before the break, with historical personalities. You know, since you're on the topic of those historical personalities in the field of ufology, like Fran Ridge, Ted Rowe, and now I know about Doug Auld. What are your thoughts on how historical data is being collected, and what resources can you point your listeners to, including me sometimes, because I'm always looking for resources that follow good ethical and respectable research guidelines in order to become knowledgeable in the field, you know, as a new researcher or as a researcher?
And that is a great question. And I will say that this is something that we don't focus on. And you and I have had conversations about this at length because we're both younger. You're a little bit younger than I am, but that's what we want to see happen. We want to see younger people coming into this get good information. And I will say that NICAP is essential for people coming into this. I will say Barry Greenwood and Barry Greenwood's archives, that is absolutely vital. Paul Dean's UFOs documenting the evidence, NARCAP because of the technical reports that they have there, and also for me, Heshtalen.org. That is a place over in Norway where they have been documenting unidentified aerial phenomena for 30 years and scientifically investigating this and engaging a younger generation. So there is good, credible information out there. It's just that we're not seeing it from the places that we think we would be.
You know, I think it's important. Doug, what do you think is your opinion, being a guy from, and we're giving away your age, from the era of the Doors and all of your research and time? What did you do, and where do you look today for those types of resources?
Well, understand that I'm not in this field, number one, as a researcher, which I think pretty much everybody understands by now. And I've gotten into this later on, so it's not like I've been studying this field for a very long time. I think I said like 7 years I started to really take a look. And I guess I really have a system of just jumping around and seeing what makes sense to me and getting onto one thing and then verifying it with someone else. And after a while, you start to if you have enough time and you know, at night, rather than watching television or watching sports or this or that, I'd be reading websites or I'd be watching videos and so on. I'd be jumping around and then connecting the dots. And I guess I just connect the dots my way. I mean, I really like Dan Willis's site. I like a lot of the things that he presents on his site and talks about. And then that will send me over to someone, Stephen Bassett and Jacques Vallée, I think, is somebody that is very credible, and Greenwald's site. So I couldn't mention many more than Erica mentioned. She knows actually more about them than me. But I just think it's a matter of using your gut and your instincts and slowly putting things together by connecting the dots, looking from here, jumping over there. Like Peter Robbins and Larry Warren did the book on Rendlesham, so I'll pick up something from them and then, you know, maybe cross it over to somebody else. So that's really how I've done it. I don't really know the organizations as well as I think the two of you do.
Well, that's very interesting. That was a really good answer. It's hard, and I'm just going to give you guys a few moments here in this perspective. It's very hard. As a researcher, investigator today, and for all those listeners out there that are wanting to get into this field, I just want to say this. It's very hard to disseminate between good information, solid information, and good research when you're doing this as far as where you're getting your information. Because of the dirt and the garbage that keeps getting regurgitated and the hoaxes that are just being materializing on Facebook and different places, and they're just being tossed around without even reading articles. People are just sharing things like, oh my God, did you see this hoax? But I just wanted to ask that question, and I was enjoying the show. And as always, Erica, thanks for a great and pleasant show, and I look forward to speaking to you guys in the future.
Well, thank you so much for calling, and you seriously have so much good information, and I'm excited to have you and Fran on in 2 weeks. This is going to be really cool.
Oh, and Sharon, feel free to send me an email off my site if you ever want to talk or chat. I'm always interested in doing that too. I'm always interested in meeting good people in the field and comparing notes. And I actually just met two very interesting people that were on Rense.com last night, I think, on Jeff Rense's show. And it's amazing. I don't want to mention them yet, but I may end up going on that show too, based on some of my sightings and so on. And it's just by reaching out. I just sent an email to someone that I saw was a UFO researcher in New Jersey, and he wrote me back, and then I wrote them, and I shared what I was doing, and they were just amazed with the synchronicities of all our topics. And so it turned out that one of my latest whistleblower paintings of man, where did that name go? It just dropped from my head. Erica, did you see one of my latest whistleblower paintings on my site? It's the military guy, that the older gentleman that's coming out and with all the testimony.
Oh my gosh! Yes, and you just sent that to me. Oh my gosh! I need to go back in because I've been looking at every single one of them. Oh my gosh!
But anyway, I'll get to the name in a second. But anyway, it turned out that this guy that I was speaking to last night is personal friends with him, and he's going to send the portrait that I did. William Tompkins, that's his name, William Tompkins, military.
Yes.
Military person who has great credentials, and they're saying that all his information is very, very true, and this is someone that people should look into. But it turns out that I painted William Tompkins, and the gentleman I was talking to last night is personal friends with him and is going to bring a copy of the painting because I'm going to allow him to print it out to show Mr. Tompkins. So I thought that was like a wild synchronicity.
That is really, really interesting. And I have to say that all of this I experience especially when I'm just sitting back and I'm trying to be positive and things, I do experience amazing synchronicities, and it's a very, very cool thing to see. And I love this. And I want to really say that I appreciate, Doug, when I talk to you, that you are really a critical thinker, and that's important. You don't believe everything. You're not going to go off and follow somebody, because I think we've got this cult of personality in this field, and some people are really more concerned with their egos than giving good information. And it's disturbing.
Wow,
I agree.
I can go along with that.
I know you do.
Charlotte,
Doug, thank you
so much
very much for not only answering my question, but going on and letting me know a little more information. I'm reaching out to you through Facebook, by the way. And Erica, I will let you get back to your guest. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. So, and I love him. He is a great person, and if anybody is concerned about the future of ufology, we are going to be really bringing in some wonderful people, and this will be good. It gives me hope. It gives me hope to find people like you, Doug, and Shallon, and everybody, and Charles Lamoureux, up in Canada, who we've talked about before. And he just has a new documentary coming out that is incredible. But there are people like us out there that want to know the truth.
Yes, very much so, and even if it ruffles some feathers, I mean, I don't bring this up to everybody, and I think some of my Facebook group who know me mostly as an artist, a person and an artist, and the projects I've done, it leaks in there every now and then, but I really don't get too heavily into this topic because a lot of people are just not comfortable with it. They're not ready for it. And but as Chris Bledsoe told me when I first watched his presentation, he says, "Well, if you don't know about it, you're going to be knowing about it soon because it's coming." And he said that with such conviction that I was like, "Wow, I agree with him. It is coming. It's something that's coming." And it's something that's just going to rock a lot of people Erica, look at it this way. There was a short time ago where Area 51 was denied. There was a short time ago where any kind of water on any planet was denied. And all of a sudden, today, every school child knows. I went and did an art talk with a bunch of middle school kids, and everyone knew about Area 51. Absolutely everyone. Also, the other day on one of the science presentations, they discovered some planet, some moon that's orbiting one of the planets that has shooting geysers of water. Okay? So, and people are yawning to this. It's like ho-hum. So there's So there's geysers of water on a planet. Are you kidding me? There wasn't a molecule of water found. 10 years ago, that would have been a miracle. But it shows you how fast things are moving, that we are just absorbing new information. Now there's like millions and millions of Goldilocks planets, planets that could sustain life, and sustain life according to our way of life. That's not to mention a different kind of life. And you saw my infrared footage of that thing flying through the sky,
yes.
right?
Yes. That was incredible.
That was completely not seeable to the naked eye. So that meant that something was flying right over me in the night sky that was not seeable to the naked eye or anybody else's. But if you had night vision goggles, you saw it. And so that's just proof in and of itself of the fact that not everything exists in the wavelengths of our vision that we can see in our visible light. There are things outside our visible spectrum in light, and there are things outside our perception in vibration. And I think that Chris Bledsoe, to go back to him, talks about this all the time, that everything is vibration. Everything is frequency and vibration. Everything is vibrating and frequency and has a frequency different than something else. And it's a matter of tuning in, like you're tuning in on a radio dial. If you go way up high, it's a certain frequency that you don't get way down low. But it all exists on the same broad band of vibration. Exactly.
And that is a great way to put that. It is true. And you can get so many different things. And I think that to me, when you're tuning into different frequencies, I believe that we are tuning into different realities. I believe that we're tuning into things that are terrestrial, extraterrestrial, interdimensional. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's so many components to all of this, but we have to be smart enough, like you were saying earlier, to understand that we don't know everything and that we have to say, hey, great, I made a mistake. Let's move on. And we also have to have a really supportive environment so we can talk about things and make a change.
Yeah, and I really don't think we have a clue yet, too. I mean, we're getting onto some little things, but I mean, it's just so complex. I know that you know the name John Alexander, of course, and John Alexander is now in Chris Bledsoe's world, and they get together and so on. These are top military people. There are top NASA people involved with Chris. This is not an accident. These people are involved with Chris. They spend time with him. They put finances behind him to take him places. They want to make sure that he's okay. They're not doing this just for some person who's making up stories. They know that he's onto something. They know that he's tuning into something that's extraordinary, and they want to know about it. They want to know what that is. They want to learn from him. So it's quite amazing, the whole thing.
It is amazing, and it's amazing to me that with Chris and his circle of people, they're all people that I have been trying to communicate with. In fact, a couple months ago, I had a great conversation with John Alexander because he was out here at Skinwalker. And so there's so many parallels. Oh, my gosh. It's just amazing. But I want to say that we have to definitely keep an open mind, and we have to be positive. And I am so grateful to have you as a friend and to have you here, because I know that we're meant to be friends, and your work is absolutely, it does something to me that it's just, I can't even verbalize.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that I'm being, my goal is to be successful in bringing the life essence through these people and their eyes through something that says something about who they are. When I make these paintings and choose these people, and I cannot choose all the whistleblowers. First of all, I don't even know them, and so if I leave some out, it's even helpful if the listeners, anyone out there that want to make suggestions, I'm open to anything. You can always write me or make a comment on my website.
Fran Ridge. I think you need to do a painting of Fran Ridge and Barry Greenwood. I'm just going to tell you that.
Okay. If I forget, you got to send me
There's
an email.
my order.
Okay. But I've got about 65 done, and I'm gonna go to 100. So I've got a number of them to do, and I'm going to continue the project till I get there. But anybody that has anything to suggest or say, or feels that I should show the works in any particular place, I'm very much about us all supporting each other and spreading the word. So I'd be welcome to hear from you.
Well, that is very wonderful. And please, everyone, go to DougAuld.com and look at State of Grace. Look at Whistleblowers. It's beautiful. I'm so happy we're friends. And I want to just tell everybody that is listening tonight to really understand there's so many facets to all of this. And we have to be intuitive, and we can't second guess ourselves. And we also have to understand that there is something out there that we cannot logically explain. And I think that art and music brings out, it touches something in us that perhaps we can access that more. If that makes any sense. Doug, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. First of all, from my point of view, I have the time, because of the life I chose, I have the time to ponder the mysteries of the world, different than if someone's on the stock market and just like working so hard with his intentions on another area. There's not a right and a wrong, or a who's right or who's wrong, or who's better, who's worse. I give up certain things to do what I do, and they give up certain things that they do. But we're in the area of being able to ponder this mystery.
I know, and it's so wonderful. I would like to thank all of you for being here tonight. I will be back next week with Ronnie LeBlanc. Have a safe and fabulous weekend, and stick around for the fabulous ladies at KCOR. I'll see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.